Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Rodriguez and I will be taking you guys to my compendium. So the title of my compendium is Transformative Therapy, Amplifying Chicanx Testimonios for Decolonial Healing Practices. So this project is centered on the lived experiences of Latine communities, specifically those who navigate multiple identities and face systemic forms of oppression. This work has been a passion of mine due to my personal experience as well as the experiences of my community. It's something that I strive to support as I work now in mental health, and I have seen how me being a Chicana in this role in going into the clinical field, I can support, you know, people that like me and how they feel more comfortable and they can, you know, build rapport with me because of the wall they are able to drop and not have to leave any spaces, any pieces of them outside of, you know, a clinical setting. So in my homepage. So now I'll just walk you through how I laid it out. So my homepage has the title as well as I'll include the presentation once it's completed, and then we'll move into my abstract. So my abstract is right here. All right. All right. So I include some imagery as well as the section information of what I'll be talking about. And a phrase that's really important to me in this section is no eres de aquí ni de allá, also meaning you're not from here, not from there. So this captures the feeling of feeling in between that many of us Latine individuals face, specifically, Chicanx individual. So I like to include that because it embodies how we feel when we are using Western practices that don't allow for our cultural identities to be shined on in these practices. So then for my abstract, I go into my vision statement. And in my vision statement, I'll be talking about my own journey as a Chicana navigating a home where emotions were always welcomed and where I had to learn what it meant to exist in a world that expected an assimilation for me. So this project is both academic as well as deeply rooted in my lived experience. So thank you for reading it and being here. I feel like this is something that we need to continue to work on as we develop and learn about Chicano psychology, which is something I'm completely passionate about. Right. And then for my vision statement, I will move into my third, actually my introduction. Right. So at the core of this portfolio, it is grounded in decolonial thought. I wanted to challenge Western therapeutic models that often overlook or pathologize our cultural realities. So instead, I'm interested in exploring healing practices that are rooted in cultural resilience, collective care, and community voice. And then from this section, I will move on into my theoretical approaches. And if you click here, it will show you the home page of these approaches, some images. So we have transformative therapy, intersectionality, and then we have critical race theory and Chicanx Testimonial. So we drop down here, we start off with transformative therapy. And I specifically laid it out that way you follow this specific format because each section is integrated into the next. So in transformative therapy, I focus on how therapy can be culturally adapted to better serve Chicanx clients. I discuss the informed not knowing approach, where therapists build trust, humility, and cultural responsiveness. Research supports that this method increases engagement and empowers clients to bring their full selves into the healing process. And then from transformative therapy, we move on into intersectionality. So in this section, so I believe intersectionality is crucial. It allows us to look at how multiple aspects of identity like race, class, immigration status, language shape mental health. So I draw on the studies that show how this lens helps therapists acknowledge structural oppression and validate the complexity of each client's experience. Because I believe every single client is completely different. Everyone has a different lived experience, and we should recognize that to empower them and heal. And then we move on into critical race theory and Chicanx Testimonial. So I connect CRT to testimonial as a decolonial method. So I highlight Gloria Anzaldua's concept of mestiza consciousness and show how storytelling, particularly in the form of testimonial, becomes a therapeutic act, one that can reclaim cultural identity and create space for healing. So stories aren't just narratives, they are resistance, they are memory, and they are medicine. And then finally, after this section, we will move on into our works cited page. So I included this works cited page that way people can go back and reflect and maybe learn a little bit more for themselves and read a little bit more on what it means to transform therapy. That's really what this compendium is meant to do. I really want to provide a narrative where we can transform therapy and move on from Western methods, or the most is be inclusive of identities while using Western methods and not leave out, healing practices that are meant to empower and create resistance and allow for healing that highlights cultural voice. I honestly believe that this portfolio is more than a project, it's a call to action, call for therapists, educators, and community members to reimagine therapy through a decolonial lens, to not just include Latine communities, but to be transformed by our voices, our stories, and our own ways of healing. And ultimately, thank you for listening and holding space for this work. I'm happy to answer any questions or reflect further and have conversations on how we can collectively build healing spaces that honor individuals, cultures, and their communities. Thank you so much.